Sorry, everybody. All right.
Yeah, so like it's a setting that you actually, because you don't even have an option to do a co-host, which is fine. It's just it's a whole setting in your profile, but that's okay.
Oh, I will co-host one other day. All right, so let's share my screen.
Where's Nikki's milk cup?
I don't know, in the fridge.
It's not in the living room.
Okay, I don't know. All right, all righty.
All right, so we are just gonna jump in. If you'll go to the next one, that's just like my little title screen. Well, I'll talk. She'll move it when she comes back. That's okay. All right. So, okay. All right. So, just really like the first one. Well, once we get the screen shifted, I've kind of broken them down into the different categories. I did kind of lump the Eckers and the ITERS together just for the sake of being able to record it so everybody can view it. So we're just going to kind of run through them real quick. The first one is for an Eckers room, and it's about room arrangement for play. And it is essentially, are there any additional materials that you add to the interest centers? Most of the classrooms, I'm pretty sure you guys all have bins and buckets like up on your shelves that are labeled or hopefully in the process of getting labeled. But this is really just asking, do you have extra materials? You will get asked this question quite a lot for Eckers because they kind of ask you for each of the activity areas. So just ensure that you have rotational materials, you know where they're stored at. If you don't have like rotational materials for, certain activity centers in the classroom, like, are they in the storage shed? Do you maybe share with another classroom?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. All right. So, and then the next one is for ITERS. It's furniture for routine care and play. And that is essentially the same exact question. Do you use any other toys or materials in addition to what I observed? This takes a little bit step further of want to know where they store them and if you can show them. So again, knowing where your toys are at. For Eckers, space and privacy, do you ever set up activities for just one or two children away from the activities for the rest of the children? So this one was a little bit tricky when I did the post assessments, but this is really just asking if you ever give children an opportunity to play by themselves or play with one other friend. This can refer to your cozy area, which is, generally a space that's set up for one child to have privacy and relax away from the group. The activities in the center can be books, soft items, fidget toys that are already included in the center. And just ensure that that space is protected from active play and be, set up in a quiet area of the classroom, which I'm pretty sure all of you from memory, all of yours are, so that's great. But to obtain 7 points in this section, there should be a second space set up for privacy. This can be anywhere in the room, even in loud areas, as long as it is limited to 2 children and is protected by the teacher. So your example answer would be, we have a cozy area that's designed for one child to use at a time. In the cozy area, we have books and soft animals that children can use. And then near the manipulative centers, we have a small table where children can work together with one other child on an activity of their choosing. And then for ITERS, we have display for children. And this is, do you add or change what is displayed in your room, such as the pictures on the wall? And if so, how often? Just like Shannon stated earlier, at least monthly. If you do it more, fantastic, but really steer away from putting dates on things. Or if you have like certain themed like photographs of the children, like if we have Christmas themed photographs of the children and it is July, we should probably change those out for something else. But just being very specific of, yeah, we change them. Every month we put new things up. And then for Eckers, for space for gross motor play, is there any indoor space that you use for gross motor play, especially in bad weather? So a generalized answer would be, yes, we move furniture in the classroom to create an open space that we use as our indoor gross motor space. But a really key thing to keep in mind is the minimum requirement from the DCDEE is that children must be able to have the opportunity to throw, catch, kick, run, skip, and jump, even in that indoor space. So just moving the furniture to do yoga, that's one thing, but we also need to be able to provide other opportunities of play to get kind of like, those gross motor muscles going. But anyways, just, yeah, like I said, just keep in mind, just keep doing those same requirements indoors if it is bad weather, because let's be honest, it's August. The chances of you guys probably going to go outside during this assessment is pretty slim. So have a plan. All right, we can move to the next one. All right, so personal care routines. This first one, it's kind of a dual one for Eckers. It's number 9, greeting and departing. For ITERS, it's number 6, greeting and departing. And it is basically just asking what happens each day when the children and parents arrive and leave. So essentially all greetings are personal and positive. All greetings are individual and the child's name is spoken. Parents are not rushed to leave. They have plenty of time to, say goodbye to the children. And at the end of the day, children are not rushed to leave. During departure, children are helped to gather their things and ensured to be clean and recently went to the bathroom or changed their diaper. And then children are helped to become involved in activities upon arrival, and children play until their parents come. They do not have to sit around and wait for them. And then finally, staff use time of greetings and departing to share information with parents. So really just hitting on, we greet everybody. The kids are, entertained all day. They're actively engaged doing something, and then they're ready to go home at the end of the day. All right, for meals and snacks, this is number 10 for Eckers and number 7 for ITERS. And it is just, what do you do if children have food allergies or families have dietary restrictions? All of your classrooms have allergy information posted, which is fantastic. We just really need to ensure that if a child does have an allergy to a component, there is a suitable substitute available for that meal. So if they're, allergic to regular milk and they drink soy milk, we need to ensure that we have soy milk at the center. But you can always refer to your allergy information sheet. I am going to go over all these questions kind of, but chances are you will not be asked all of them. They really only ask these questions if they can't see it. That's why I say it's super important. I know a lot of you probably heard me tell you, like, label your rotational materials because they won't ask about them if they can see it. All right, next is nap and rest. And it's basically just how is supervision handled at nap time. So classrooms are supervised by however many teachers are required to meet staff to child ratios. Teachers walk around the classroom and continually supervise all children the entire nap period. Teachers remove blankets from children's faces if necessary. And then, of course, if you're in that infant room, visual checks are done at least every 15 minutes. And then this next nap time one is, what do you do if children are tired before nap time or having trouble settling down or waking up early? So children are not expected to wait until nap time to rest. They are encouraged to stay engaged in activities, but are allowed to rest if they cannot wait willingly. Children who have trouble settling down are offered a book to look at quietly on their mat or given the opportunity for quiet activities at the table if they wake early. And then moving on to health practices for Eckers, number 13. Do you have any health requirements for children and staff? You might get asked this, but this is basically, just tell them what you typically do when you get hired, right? Children and staff are required to have a physical upon hiring and enrollment. In addition, staff members are required to have TB tests prior to employment, and children must have shot records on file within 30 days of enrollment. And then also, you have policies in place for exclusion and lengths of exclusion depending upon the illness. And for ITERS health practice number 10, do you make any health related information available to the parents? Can you give me some examples? So these are very generalized examples. So definitely figure out what you specifically have maybe on your bulletin boards up near the front, but you could give health related information regarding USDA meal patterns, information regarding and obtaining WIC, and then of course, periodically updating the parent board with information on new health related topics. And then ITERS number 11, safety practices. What provisions do you have for handling emergencies? So in case of an emergency, staff are trained in first aid and CPR. You should have multiple phones available, basic first aid materials, fire emergency routes that are posted in each of the classrooms, and emergency telephone numbers that are listed in the office, and an emergency medical care plan should be available. And of course, you could also talk about your center's EPR plan and how you review it annually with all staff. All right, next one. All right, so language reasoning and listening and talking. So I think it's language and reasoning for Eckers and listening and talking for ITERS. But ITERS number 14, using books. Do you add or change the books that are put out for the children to use? How often do you do this? And what kind of books are added? Again, remembering like when it's talking about, adding and changing materials, that you want to do it at least monthly. But you can talk about different books that you rotate out. Like, for instance, you add books that are theme related or go, along with what you're learning. Or maybe it could go along with the time of the year or seasons or holidays that are coming up. Let's see, for Eckers, the book and picture one is number 15. And it's, again, just asking that same thing. Are there other books used with children? How is this handled? Again, rotating books, as well as all other kinds of props in the centers to keep children interested. You rotate your books monthly. Everything else, monthly, monthly, monthly. That is the biggest thing to remember. The second part of books and pictures for Eckers is how do you choose books? The books that are added to the centers are typically theme or activity related. They are part of the theme box props, and we check them, possibly check them out of the library as needed or request the children bring them from home. And let's see, encouraging children to communicate. Do you do anything to help children see that what they say can be written down and read by others? Please give examples. So that goes just back to what Shannon was saying about labeling their artwork. When they're, drawing pictures, ask them what it is and write it down. Jill says this is the house, because let's be honest, there are a lot of scribbles and we can't tell what it is usually looking at it. But if you're in an older preschool room, you could also do the KWL charts. So talk about that. Next one. All right, these next couple slides are all about activities, and there is a ton of questions for activities. So I actually sectioned them between ITERS and Eckers. So first up, we have ITERS, and for fine motor, it's again, rotational materials. Remember, we do it at least monthly, and you know where you keep your rotational materials. Active physical play. Are any areas used by this group for active physical play, including space indoors and outdoors? How often are they used and for about how long? So tell them, this is our outdoor playground. When, it's too hot, or if it's raining, or there's other weather related things going on, we move the shelves so we can do indoor gross motor. Let's see, the children should participate in active physical play for at least 1 hour every day, regardless of if it's inside or outside. If it's raining, you still should do an hour of active physical play. That does not mean that you have to do an hour altogether in one, time slot. You can definitely split it up a few times, throughout the day, maybe 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, but your total time needs to be an hour. All right, art for the ITERS group. This is because typically in our ITERS classroom, you don't typically have an art center set up because, you know, they like to eat everything. But they're going to ask you, do you use art materials with the children? What do you use? Where do you keep them? And then are edible materials ever used? So for our infants, art is not required for children under 12 months. So you do not have to worry about this. But for those toddlers and twos, you should use art materials with the children daily. Some potential items that you could have is pencils, markers, paper, construction paper, dot markers, Play-Doh, and other materials that the children can use. And it's very important to remember that edible art materials are not used with the children. And let's see. Sorry, I lost my place. Following up again with art, how often are art materials used and how do you choose what art materials to offer the children? Art materials should be used daily with children for all children 12 months and old, 12 months and up. Choose art, you choose art materials according to the child's interest, their ability, and keeping in mind safety. Because clearly we're not going to give, tiny little pony beads to 1-year-olds, right? So definitely keep that in mind as well. And then music and movement. Do you use any music with the children? How is this handled and how often is it done? Let's see. This is where you really want to talk about the different types of music that you use. Oh, well, that's a little bit later, but use different types of music with the children, including multicultural music as well as children's music that's available. Make sure music is done both formally and informally. Sometimes the children initiate music and we often use songs and finger plays during transitions. Music is a part of our daily routine. And again, with music, the next one, do you have any other musical instruments that children can use and how are they used? Maybe you have homemade musical toys available as well as other toys in your rotating materials. And then again, rotate them at least monthly. And then the last one for music and movement is what types of music are used with the children. A lot of you guys had really struggled with this one because what they're looking for in this one is what different types of music, because you have to have a variety of music. So listing off, we use classical music, we use, popular music, hip hop, children's music, multicultural music, just listing off the actual genres of music rather than, because you guys are really great about giving me names of songs and that was fantastic, but they're really just looking for the genres. All right, so stand and water. Do the children use stand and water and how often is this done? So infants and children under the age of 18 months do not participate in stand and water. Children over 18 months are offered sand and water play daily with close supervision. That means that the teacher is no more than an arm's length away because we know that children that young will eat the sand. So we definitely need to be super close to supervise them. And then continuing with sand and water play, are any toys used for the sand and water play? Could you please describe them or show them to me? Show them where your toys are stored. Show them what you use with the sand and the water. You can also, talk about, cups, bowls, basters, measuring cups, sponges, floating toys, or maybe even adding in theme related toys when it's relevant. And then last one for sand and water, are there other activities or materials used with sand or water in addition to what I saw today? So if you're doing sand or water while they are there, fantastic, great. If you're not, and you maybe just have the materials available, basically what they're wanting to know is, do you ever do anything different? So changing the color of the sand, adding bubbles to the water, or adding food coloring to the water to change the color of it. It could even be, letting the kids wash the foods from housekeeping in the soapy water bucket, or maybe washing the baby dolls. They're looking for, what do you do outside of just, here's some sand and water? And then nature and science, how often are children taken outdoors? Could you please describe the experiences they have with nature when they're outdoors? And again, right, we go outside every day, weather permitting. And then when you're outdoors for this ITERS age group, you should be talking about the weather, any critters or animals you see around. When, maybe if you have a bird feeder in your window, when the birds visit, you can talk about the birds, or if you see them flying through in the sky. They're really just looking for how do you bring nature to the kids. And use of TV, video, or computers. They want to know if you use those. I really, really highly encourage you. Well, you're not supposed to be using them for children under 2, but say no to this question. You do not use TV or computers with ITERS children. If you say no to this question, it does not affect your score whatsoever. But if you say yes, they will ask lots of other additional questions, and that could potentially hurt you a little bit more. And then promoting acceptance of diversity. Are there any activities used to help children become aware of diversity? And can you give examples? So one great, little general answer for this is we help children become aware of diversity in many different ways. We play multicultural music every day. We celebrate different holidays. We display pictures of different cultures. Maybe we occasionally serve food of other cultures, and we have books in Spanish that we read to the children. So really just kind of hitting on the things that you guys already do and just kind of highlighting that. All right, next one. All right, now we're on to Eckers. For fine motor, this really is kind of like a 2-part. It wants to know when the manipulatives and other fine motor materials are accessible. And then do you have any fine motor rotational materials? So your manipulative center should be open and available for children to use all day. If the children are combined at the beginning and ending of the day in other classroom, those materials will be assessed as well. So kind of keep that in mind. And then again, right, we rotate our materials at least monthly. And then for art, how do you choose what to put on the bulletin board? They're not really asking you how the artwork, or what they're really asking you is how the artwork of the children is displayed. They don't really want to know what you put on your bulletin board. Hopefully they'll be able to kind of answer this without asking you the question, but when they look around your classroom, under indicator 3.2, they are looking for individualized art versus what appears to be teacher directed, which Shannon really hit on earlier of doing that process art. Some of that is allowed under 3.2, but under 5.2, much is described as 85% of the art that is displayed is individualized. So really this question is going to be answered more by what they see around the room. And then following up with art, are there 3-dimensional art materials such as clay or wood for gluing? And how often? How do you choose what activities to offer? If they see that you have a 3D project in your room, they're still going to ask you this question to determine how often. It must be offered at least monthly. So just make sure you say, oh, we do it about once a month, or every 3 weeks, whatever the case is. But remember, art that is chosen by the teacher should be theme related. The art center is open for the children to choose. Individualized art will be produced freely. So you kind of supplement the everyday art materials with items that are not always in the center as a guide towards the thematic lessons, or as teacher directed activity types of art that will be documented on your lesson plan. Let's see. Next, for art, do you offer art activities that children can work on over several days? Yes, right? We allow children to work on their projects as long as they need to. And you can even take that step further of the art project is protected during the process because we, store them on top of the shelf or in the closet or wherever your space may be. For music and movement, how often do music activities, or do you do music activities with the children? Do children ever do movement or dance activities, and how often is this done? We do music activities daily with the children. We sing songs, put music on during nap time, and play music for dancing. Children should have lots of opportunity to do music or movement activities. This can include marching and moving to music, acting out music movements with or without scarves or instruments, and how often we should do this at least weekly, at least once a week. So a great thing to do is have some sort of movement activity on your lesson plan, at least once a week. Let's see, continue on with music and movement. What kinds of music do you use with the children? Again, they're not asking for specific songs, they're asking for types of genre, right? So classic, children's music, hip hop, jazz, country, multicultural, whatever the case may be, just kind of stick more towards the genres. And then do you ever do special music activities? This could be something like children are encouraged to make musical instruments, or musical guests are invited to come and play for the children. For this case, the special music activities, it should happen occasionally throughout the year. So, a few times out of the year, like 3, 4, probably quarterly is a good time estimate. And then last one for music and movement, are there any opportunities for children to do music activities in their own way? We know that they do it in their own way all the time, right? When we have dance parties, they're allowed to dance however they want. We're not forcing them to, dance only in certain ways. They're allowed to make up their own words or songs. They're really just allowed to be very individualized when it comes to music and movement. All right, next one. Eckers has a lot of activities, but all right, so for blocks, how often is block play available? How long are the blocks available for play, and do children play with blocks outdoors? Right, so blocks in the block center should be available every day, all day. And then of course, yes, if you have blocks outside in your outdoor play area, answer the question with yes. If you don't, say no, because they will see that you don't have them out there. Let's see, sand and water. Do you use sand and water with the children? How's it handled? How often? Where is it available? For this age group, sand and water should be available in each classroom, both indoors and out, and it should be available every day. It does not have to be available all day, but at least every day it should be available. And then following up with sand and water, are there toys for children to use with the sand and water play? Show them the toys or describe them. Again, remembering, measuring cups, spoons, funnels. You can even talk about adding certain items like during community helper weeks, like, rolling pins or funnels, like to support kind of like bakeries or whatever the case may be. Just talk about the toys that you have available. And then do you change activities children do with sand and water? This is the same for ITERS. They really just want to know your easiest ways to answer this question are you change the color of the sand, or you add bubbles or food coloring to the water. I really encourage you to shy away from, saying anything about like changing sand for rice. It's kind of like, it's like this whole gray area if you can actually use it or not use it. So I just encourage people not to do it. Let's see, moving on to dramatic play. Are there any other dramatic play props that children can use? And are there props for outdoor play ever used outside or in large indoor spaces? So again, those rotational materials, every month we rotate them. As far as outdoor props, I know most of the playgrounds all have like the little kitchen sets. We need to make sure that we have props to use with the kitchen sets. And it might be something where you have a bucket in your classroom and you just bring them out with you. And then this next one for dramatic play, is there anything you do to extend children's dramatic play? We add pictures and stories to extend dramatic play. We can encourage children to bring in pictures from vacations to share and use as props for dramatic play. It's really just asking, do you ever connect dramatic play with other experiences? And then nature and science. This asks if can you give me examples of nature and science activities you do with the children in addition to what they've seen, and about how often they are done. So some samples of these could be charting, observing, comparing and contrasting, weighing or balancing, measuring, identifying characteristics or classifying. And then you want to offer these activities often or at least once a week. And then next one for nature and science, do you use nature or science books or audiovisual materials with the children? I know a lot of you are pretty great about having those science related books kind of near your science center. So as long as they're there, they'll definitely see it. But if they ask, just tell them, you know, this is our box up here for science related books. We pull them down depending on our theme. We have new books and printed materials that are theme specific to enhance the experience of the Science Center. Next one. All right, math and number. It's just like the science question of, could you give me examples of math activities you do with the children in addition to what I've seen? And you can kind of answer it almost the same way because math and science are really closely related. But, you know, charting, graphing, counting, recording numbers, you could do like a weather graph chart over, you know, a couple weeks and have the kids color in how many days it rained, how many days was it sunny. And then you want to offer these activities often or at least weekly. And then math and numbers, are there any math and number materials used with any other math and number materials used with the children? How is this handled? This again, right back to those rotational materials. This is where we keep our rotational math materials. We rotate them monthly. And next, use of TV, video, and or computer. I know some of the Eckers rooms do use them and some of them don't. But really, this is just to determine if further questions need to happen. If you don't use the digital materials, this will not count against you, just like for ITERS. But if you do, ensure that your screen time log is complete and able to be reviewed. And also ensure when answering additional questioning that we're not forcing the children to sit and watch a video, that there's always other activities for them to engage in if they don't want to do it. And when using the TVs, videos, or computers, they should be of educational, nature. They should allow creativity or physical activity. Like a lot of times, like great things to do is, do like yoga videos with them and things like that. But again, just if you don't use them, just answer the question no. If you do, just make sure you have all your other ducks in the row for that. And then the last one for activities for Eckers is promoting acceptance of diversity. What do you do if a child or adult shows prejudice? So a good sample answer would be, we intervene appropriately to counteract prejudice shown by children or adults. This may include doing specific themes with the children to help counteract prejudice. We involve all similarities and differences of all people and cultures in a positive way. And then the next one for promoting acceptance of diversity is just kind of like the ITERS one, are any activities used to help children understand the variety of people in our country and in the world. And please give examples. So these are things that I already know that you guys were doing. And that's why it was a little hard with these interview questions, because I knew that you guys were doing things, but I had to score it by what you told me. But, think about what you do throughout the years, right? Many times throughout the year, you discuss children and adults from all different places and cultures. Some themes that you probably do, all about me, Chinese New Year, Cinco de Mayo, children around the world. Don't overthink the question. Just talk about what you typically do. All right, next one. All right, interactions. Let's see. So this one is, okay, it is a mixture of Eckers and ITERS. Sorry, forgot what was happening. So for Eckers 29, supervision of gross motor play, could you describe how staff supervise children during gross motor play or gross motor activities and outdoor play? Again, remember your basic supervision, right? All staff are required to be able to see and hear the children at all times. Staff are required to walk around the playground while interacting with the children. You definitely shouldn't be grouped up on the playground. Spread out so you can see all areas of the playground. Let's see, number 29, what happens, or this is still with supervision of gross motor play, what happens when children have difficulty using equipment? If children are having difficulty using equipment, we work with them to show them how to use it. We also work to find other ways that they can use the equipment successfully. And this next one for discipline, for Eckers, it's number 31. For ITERS, it's number 28. Do you ever find it necessary to use strict discipline? Please describe what methods you use. So strict discipline is never used. I know that kind of tricks people up a little bit. This is pretty much asking if we are hitting or kicking or, strictly enforcing rules on the children. We don't do that. You can talk about what you do use, which is using discipline by ways of redirecting the children and talking to them about how their actions affect others, modeling good behavior so that the children will follow. When children are seen interacting positively with one another, we are sure to praise them for this. Next up for discipline, what do you do if a child with a very difficult behavior problem or has a very difficult behavior problem? And then do you ever ask for help from others? And who would you ask? So if you have a child whose behavior is extremely difficult to handle, you can talk about us here at OnePlace, TAs, right? You can reach out to us for help through technical assistance. You can also talk with the parent and try to problem solve together. Let's see. And last up for this slide is interactions among children for Eckers. Are there any activities you use that encourage children to work together? Could you give some examples? So a good sample answer for this would be we provide many opportunities for children to work together and negotiate. For example, right, provide good examples. We have provided opportunities for children to build 3D art and work on it over time. We also work on large class murals and help to bring chairs to the table. We work together while we're cleaning up in the centers. Just talk about how you get the kids to work together. All right, next one. Okay, so we're almost done with the interview piece. So for Eckers free play, could you describe any free play opportunities children might have? When and where do these occur, and what can the children play with? So all of your schedules should identify when your free play is. It should be for at least one third of the day. So 12-hour center, that would be for 4 hours daily. But make sure it's identified on your daily schedule, and then and that is available for the children often throughout the day. It is two separate things, right? If you have it posted on your schedule, but you're doing something completely different off of your schedule, you could potentially miss out on the whole free play aspect. That really affects a whole lot of the activity section. Like a whole lot of it. But anyways, just make sure that you have lots of free play. And then let's see, even during teacher directed activities, children are offered the opportunity to participate or to choose another activity. This is for both indoor and outdoor play. And then of course, many materials are provided to enhance their play. And I just realized this says interactions at the top. It's supposed to say like program structure, sorry. Let's see, ITERS number 29 is about your schedule. What do you do if a toddler seems tired before nap time or hungry before mealtime? Is flexibility possible, and how is it handled? We kind of already talked about this a little bit earlier with like the meals and the snacks and the nap time. But just remember, right, if a toddler or 2-year-old is tired before nap time, we lay out their cots in a protected area so they can rest. If they appear to be hungry before a meal, before meal times, there is food we can offer them until the next meal. It's really important to remember, if a staff member acknowledges that a child is hungry or tired, They must be responded to with food or rest within 3 minutes, which is going to be really hard. So just try your best. Next up for ITERS is free play. Do you have any additional play materials for children to use? How often do you change the materials? We have talked about this 1,000 times already. Just show them where your rotational materials are. It's best if you have them labeled, and rotate them at least once a month. And then last up for ITERS is group activities. Do you ever do activities with groups of children where children are expected to participate? So group activities are not usually part of an ITERS, classroom. Not having a group activity will not hurt your score, but doing a group activity means that you will be scored for it. If all indicators are not met, then it would not be beneficial to do the group activity. And I'm pretty sure in all the ITERS rooms, they weren't doing any group activities. That would be like a circle time or something along those lines. They were all pretty, very individualized. The kids did what they wanted, which is great. That's exactly what we want to see. Let's see. All right. So I feel like I talked a whole lot in a very short amount of time. That was kind of it for the the interview question piece. Did anybody have any quick questions on any of those that I very quickly went through before I move on to the must observe pieces? No? All right, cool. We'll move on. All right, so back when I did your pre-assessments, which seems like 1,000 years ago, I don't know, maybe like February, March, I did print out all of the must observe cards, but if anybody needs any more, just pop it in the chat box because I will be on site tomorrow, so I can bring you some tomorrow. But I'm just gonna go over them real briefly, and just keep in mind that these are things that have to be observed during the observation for them to count. So those little cards are like perfect little things for you to just kind of carry around with you to get in the habit of doing them. Although I'm sure you're doing these all day long anyways, but it'll kind of be like little helpful reminders, because who can remember to do all of these things when you have somebody in there staring at you for 4 hours? Like, it's really stressful, but it's okay. So I'm just going to briefly kind of go through them, but these ones are all for the ITERS room. So first up, we have each child and their caregiver are greeted warmly using their name, right? So make sure you're smiling, making eye contact, and being warm and inviting. Greet them by their name, right? Hello, Johnny. Hey, Mom. How are you today? How was your morning? Guess what we're doing today? And then touch base with that parent on the mood or change in the child's health status, communicate some information, exchanging involving the child's health and safety. Goodness, I'll get it out eventually. And then next is intervention for children's safety, includes possible hazards removed physically and verbal explanation of appropriate safety rules. So check your gates, make sure they're locked and closed, limit number of children on a certain climbing toy to limit risk of falling, say loudly so people can hear you, be gentle, biting or hitting hurts. You seem to like that toy, let's get you another one. He or she doesn't like it when you grab their toy. Let's see, adding words to actions. So many examples must be observed throughout the day. So you have to do this several times throughout the day. Again, just talking to the kids about what's happening, what they're doing, what you're doing. I'm changing your diaper, I'm fastening your diaper, now you're all dry. The milk is white, it tastes cool and smooth. You're getting tired, it's time for nap. Just verbalize everything you're doing throughout the day. And then being skillful at interpreting children's attempts to communicate and then follow through appropriately. So this is where you're noticing that they need something and following through, right? So I know you're hungry, let's go get a snack. Or you're hungry, here's your bottle, that's better. Or I see you pointing at, the truck. Is this the one that you want? So attempting, communicating that you know what they're saying. And then next we have several examples of take turns and baby conversations. This is really like when a staff member makes eye contact and listens to the infants, imitates their sound, and waits for a response. Allow several exchanges back and forth for those infants that we know that really don't talk, which this would be really hard for them, but just keep talking to them. And then of course, wait for your child, for a child to indicate that they want more food. You can respond with, you want more juice or snack or peas or whatever it is. And then of course, allowing verbal or facial responses and smile, nod and respond with, I'm giving you more spaghetti or more milk. The next is expand on conversations and vocabulary, be specific constantly, and use a wide range of exact words to name items to children. Describe everything with shape, texture, size, number, and color, right? So you're playing with a big red fire truck. Here's your snack. It tastes salty or sweet or crunchy. Yes, that's a ball. It's big, it's blue, it's round. See how it rolls? Be very descriptive in everything you're talking about with the kids. All right, next, staff create verbal play with children, and staff involves infant in musical play, right? So rhyming with older infants in a playful manner. Recite nursery rhymes and sing simple songs with students' names in the song. One instance must be observed of dancing with a baby while holding the infant or singing along with songs while involving the baby or the infant that's being held. All right, discuss children's feelings, intentions, and emotions. So feeling angry when someone takes your toy, feeling tired followed by, feeling rested, assisting one child talk to another about the child's intentions, right? He's coming back to play with, the blocks after he gets his diaper changed. Let's go get another toy for now. Or, say mommy comes back every day, but talking about those feelings, describing them, describing your own feelings to them, that is all, super helpful, and they must be observed. All right, so next is 2 instances where staff are involved in asking simple questions and gaining responses, right? So asking like, are you stuck? And then waiting for them to respond to you and, let me help you. Or maybe you can hide a toy under a small cloth, where's the duck? Wait for them to respond. And then you can pull it out like, there it is. Something along those lines, or like, what's for lunch? Look at the items on the plate, point, give them a chance to respond. And then, yes, that's green peas or round peas or smushy peas. All right, number 10, read books to a small group of children informally. So this doesn't mean that we're reading groups to the large group, right? It's just like, hey, you're hanging out with, a few kids, and you're reading a book to them. Choose a calm time, such as, when the other children are engaged in the centers, and read to just a few children. Of course, do not force this interaction. Attract children to the book area. Although a lot of times, if you just go sit there, 9 times out of 10, you'll end up with a whole mess of children right beside you. Then let's see, 1 instance of simple block play with children. So sit down in that block center and stack blocks up so they can be knocked down. That is your simple block play. Then you have the kid, the child stack them again and then knock them down. You could create a block bed and place a doll on it. But you just have to do at least 1 instance of simple block play with the children. All right, next up is 1 instance of staff pretending in dramatic play. So create a back and forth telephone conversation with the child. When handed a toy by an infant, animate it in some way. So if you've got like little ladybugs in the infant room, make it come alive. And let's see. Next up, one instance of verbalizing concepts of nature and science. So if you're blowing bubbles, see the bubbles float, they're flying away, see them going away. Or if you're outside and during your outside time and you hear birds, you know, hey, you hear that bird? Where is it? You know, there it is, and point to it. And then last up, two instances of explaining another child's feelings to a child. So, and then also one instance of staff pointing out positive interactions between others. This must be in the first 3 hours of the observation. So something that you could say, you know, look at Jill's face. She's sad, or, you know, or she's happy, or she's glad. And then also praising those children for independent choice. You know, oh, look, Johnny's got his own ball, or, you know, Miss Pam brought us some nice cold milk. Now we won't be thirsty. And then you can always thank the staff member. So it's all about pointing out positive interactions and then explaining how children feel with one another. All right, next one. All right, so this is all for Eckers. And again, these are must observe things that they have to see in order to count during the observation. So first up, there needs to be one instance of each, you know, that each child is being greeted with their name spoken and the caregiver has acknowledged them. We talked about this kind of during the interview process, but you know, hey, Johnny, like, how are you today? How was your morning? Guess what we're doing? Talk to the parents, ask them, you know, how did their night go? How did their morning go? Safety practices. You need to have at least one instance of you discussing or explaining a safety rule, right? So maybe if they're leaning back in the chair, not washing their hands or running. A real informal example would be, you know, please sit properly in your chair, you know, on your bottom. I'm afraid you will get hurt if the chair falls. Or you can do more formal of how do fire drills keep us safe? Books and pictures. We need one instance of teacher initiating one language activity. So that's reading a book, flannel story, story time, you know, storytelling. So you can read that book during circle time, reading to children that may be waiting for breakfast, pay attention to supervision of children that are not interested and not participating. And then of course you can do that flannel board story or finger play. There also needs to be one instance of reading to the children informally. So this is not in our big circle time, right? This is our, you know, during center time. Go sit in the library, get a couple kids to sit and read a book with you. You can use this as an extension of an activity. Maybe you have a child that will request for you to read to them. It could also be used as a transition from the child's parent into the classroom, maybe if they're upset. But so you have to do one full group reading and then one individual informal reading, individually or a small group. All right, for language to develop reading or reasoning skills, there should be two instances where concepts are introduced using words with concrete examples. So size, shape, color, or sequence. You want to call attention to the shape of a block toy in relation to, you know, the other ones. Verbally lay out the day's schedule, ask the children what they think will happen next, or you can call attention to a natural event. Why do bubbles float? Bubbles float because they are soap wrapped around warm air. Again, with language to develop reasoning skill, there should be one instance regarding logical relationships, meaning the student is using materials while the children explains what to do and why. So explaining how to use sorting bears on a scale and demonstrate it. You know, the teacher can ask the child to try it on their own, right? You know, how many bears are on the side of the scale? What is higher? What is lower? Why is that side higher? Why is that lower? How could we balance it? And again, for language to develop reasoning skills, there should be two instances must be observed regarding children's interest or need to solve problems. So think like, how many cups do we need? if you're having them set the table, how many cups do we need for everybody to have a cup of milk? Or it looks like our scale is unbalanced. How many bears do we need to balance it? Or, you know, uh-oh, it looks like you're having a hard time building that tower. Let's try this. And explain why did that work as opposed to what they were doing. And there also needs to be 2 instances regarding reasoning skills. So tell me why. Why do you think your block tower fell over? Gravity is the earth pulling everything down. So it pulled your block tower down when it wasn't balanced anymore. So just really, you know, tell me why. Why did this happen? And then 2 instances that encourage reasoning not related to the children's use of materials. So like asking what comes first, putting on your socks or shoes, you know, what comes first, setting the table or eating. And then for informal use of language, conversations with at least 3 to 4 exchanges with one child at a time. This must be observed several times, but it's all about having a conversation rather than just asking a question and getting one answer and then that's it. Meal times are great times to do this. You can expand on their conversations by asking the children, you know, open-ended questions. And of course, encouraging children to talk to each other about their thoughts, feelings, and days and how their day is going. And then like a great question asked, like, what did you do last night with mommy or daddy? What'd you have for dinner? What'd you watch after that? What'd you play with? And just get at least 3 to 4 exchanges with multiple children, just one at a time. All right, and then 1 instance verbally adding more information to what a child says. So every time you engage in conversation with a child, ask, you know, how, what, why, who, when, where. Would you like to play with big ball, you know, the big ball like Johnny has, the one that's big, round, and blue? Let's go find one to play with. For math and number, you want 1 instance of number talk or number experiences as part of practical life events. So that's not using games or activities. So have children look at the clock or the schedule as staff tell them what a certain event is going to be happening. While doing the calendar, count how many more days until the weekend, counting your friends to see who's here or who's coming in the door or out the door. And then the next one for math and number, 1 instance of staff initiating activities using materials to extend learning. So encouraging children to sort bear counters by color and then determining which color has the most or the least, helping children figure out how many measuring cups of water are needed to fill a quart-sized container, and then making a chart with children indicating the number of children who like riding big, you know, tricycles compared to little tricycles, concluding which is more. All right, so I tried really hard to end right on time. But that is it. There was one last slide. It just has my phone number and my email address. So if you are working through things and just have like any random questions, please reach out. I will help you however I can. And I know I went through that really fast, but it is being recorded, so please feel free to rewatch it. And like I said earlier, I will be there tomorrow, and I planned on checking in on every single classroom just to see what else you need.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for joining us. And thank you for those who are watching live. And it is recorded, so I'm going to post it for everybody on our Facebook Messenger group. And Jennifer said she'll be there tomorrow. And of course, the rest of us are there to help answer any questions. And it's going to be great. I'm going to put the request in tomorrow morning. So they'll give us our window, and I will tell you as soon as I figure out what the window is, so you know when they might be coming. And hopefully I can post these all in the bathroom. I'm going to do your bathroom reading, and it's all going to be on the doors, so you can read through all the tips while you are taking a little break.
And I would just like add, like, don't overthink it.
No.
Like that is 100% where we all end up messing up, is because we overthink what they're asking us. So just go with your gut.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for sticking around.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a wonderful day or night. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is anymore. Goodness.